Hi, there's no doubt been a time where you have wanted to capture the reactions from viewers of videos that you've posted online. Well, within this tutorial, we'll learn how to use a CMS to record all of the reactions for people watching our videos, and we'll learn how to display that on top of our video. The video can come from anywhere, Vimeo, YouTube, Wistia, wherever. We'll be using some open source libraries to make that possible, so let's dive in and see how to do it. Let's begin by creating a new GraphCMS project. We'll give it a name of Remix Reactions, and we'll choose a location where we want our data to be stored. We'll then be redirected to the project dashboard where we can edit schema. We'll create our first model for our video, and we'll create that model. Next, we're going to add a title for each of our video pages. We'll set this as a title field, and we'll make this field required. Next, let's go ahead and add a URL field, and this will contain the URL to the video, and we'll make this field required as well. We'll go ahead and create a model for our reaction, and we'll leave the default API IDs, and we'll add our first field to the reaction model, and we'll give this a name of duration. We'll make this a required field, and it will be an integer or number field. We'll then go ahead and add a float field for the timestamp. We'll also make this a required field, and once that's added, we'll now have to add an enumeration for the type of emoji that we want to store for the reaction. So let's now create an enumeration, and we'll give this a name of emoji, and then we'll add the different enum values that are available. We'll just provide 4 values, but feel free to add more, and you can configure this app to however you like. Back inside of the reaction schema, let's go ahead and add an enumeration, and we'll choose the enumeration emoji that we can add, and we'll also make this a required enum. Finally, back inside of the video, within the list of different field types, let's define a relationship. We want to add the relationship to reaction from the video. We'll make this a two-way reference, and we'll say that a video has many reactions. We can go ahead and leave the defaults for both sides of the relations here to their default values. Now let's go ahead and populate our project with some example videos. I'm going to pick a few videos, but if you're following along, feel free to add one of your favorite videos. These are mine. Now let's go to the settings for our project and create an API key or a permanent alt token. We'll give this a name, and we'll set the default stage for content delivery to be the draft stage. Once this has been created, let's go ahead and add some permissions. Here we will just allow every type of permission to this API key. Once added, it's time to create our Remix project, and we'll do that in the terminal. We are going to be using Remix throughout this tutorial to create the front end and handle the form submissions for any time someone reacts to a video. Inside of the terminal, we'll run npx create remix at latest. We always want that latest version and not a cached version of the create remix app. We'll then give a name for our project, and we'll choose where we want to deploy our application. In this example, we'll choose Vercel, and we'll choose JavaScript for the language that we'll be using to follow along with this tutorial. Then we'll install all of the dependencies, and we'll change directory into our new project. We'll then go ahead and install the GraphQL dependency and GraphQL request. We'll need these to send mutations and query the GraphCMS CMS. Then inside of the app directory within our project, we'll create the file graphcms.js. Inside of here, we'll import GraphQL client from the GraphQL request package, and we'll export a new const called GraphCMS client, which will invoke GraphQL client. We'll need to pass some environment variables, and we'll need to install .env-cli and update our package JSON to run that when we run npm run dev. We won't need this when we deploy because Vercel will provide these automatically, but in development we need those from .env. Then let's head to the GraphCMS project settings and fetch our API endpoint and the permanent alt token that we created previously. Then let's go ahead and remove all of the scaffolded files that Remix gave to us when we instantiated a new Remix project. Inside of the index.jsx file, let's import JSON link and use loader data from Remix. We'll also import GQL from the GraphQL request package, and we'll import the GraphCMS client that we created previously. Then let's go ahead and export a default function, and we'll just give this a name of index route. Then we'll provide a h1 to the page, And we'll just call this videos. What we'll next do is iterate over data, and from data we'll fetch videos, and for each of those videos we'll display a link in a unordered list on the page. That link will be using the link component that we imported from Remix, and we'll send this to video/video ID, and the value of this link, that will be the video title. You are probably wondering at this point where data comes from. Well, this is provided to us by invoking the useLoaderData hook from the Remix package. But you may also be wondering where the data actually comes from. We can't just invoke a hook without any data. Well, we'll be using the GraphCMS client to send a request to GraphCMS and return that data through our loader. So inside of the special const loader, let's invoke the GraphCMS client passing along a query, getAllVideos query. And then using JSON that we imported previously, we'll return all of the data that is returned to us from GraphCMS. Then all that's left to do is actually create the query that fetches all of the videos from GraphCMS. We'll just fetch the ID and title for all of the videos. Remix also allows us to export a special tag called meta, and this will update the page title. So let's provide a title video reactions. And if we run the dev server and head on over to localhost 3000, we now will see a list of all of our videos. If we click on one of those, it will then populate the URL with videos/ID. We now need to implement the page for each of those videos. Inside of the routes folder, let's create the folder videos, and within that we'll create the file $videoid.jsx. Let's go ahead and import useLoaderData and JSON that we've used previously, and we'll import GQL and the GraphCMS client. Then let's go ahead and export a default function called videoPage, and inside of here we'll return a h1. And then let's go ahead and export a default function named videoPage. Inside of here we'll return a div with an h1 of the video title. As we did on the index page, we'll need to invoke the useLoaderData hook. And to populate the useLoaderData hook, we'll need to export the loader. Here we can invoke the GraphCMS client by calling GraphCMS client.request and pass in a new query. This query will also require a variable. The variable will be the ID of the page that we are viewing. Remix makes it really easy to get from the params the video ID. Because we named the file $videoid, we can destructure this from params inside of the loader function. Then all that's left to do is pass that ID to the video and write the query for getting a video by ID. If we head on over to the GraphCMS API playground and we search for video, we can see all of the available fields, queries, and mutations that we have. We want to fetch one video. So if we click the query video, we can see the arguments that it accepts. It accepts a ID, which we already know, and we can pass this along to the query. So where the video ID is equal to what we give it as a GraphQL variable, let's return from that the ID, title, and the URL for that video. Don't forget to use the correct file extension .gsx or .tsx if you're using TypeScript. Now let's save that file. And if we head on over to localhost 3000 and we click on one of those videos that are being given to us from the CMS, we'll now be able to go to a page that contains the H1 for that video. As well as showing the video title, we also want to show the video itself inside of a player. So let's go ahead and install the React player dependency, and then we'll import from that the YouTube React player. Let's now go ahead and inside of the video page function, create a div for our video player, and then inside of that we'll add the YouTube player. We'll pass it the URL for our video, and we'll pass along the prop controls. Now if you open our project and head to one of those video pages, you can see we have all of those controls and the video. Remix allows us to set the meta for our current route. Here we'll export the const meta, and we can destructure from the argument the data, which is returned from the loader. Then all we need to do is return a new object, and inside of here we'll pass in the meta title data.video.title, and this will be coming from the content management system that we queried previously. Next we'll import useState from React, and we'll invoke this inside of the video page component. We'll need to store the seconds elapsed and also the duration of the current video. We'll be using React Player throughout this tutorial, and one of the callbacks for the props that we can pass is on progress and duration. We can use both of these to update the seconds elapsed and the duration. So let's create the handle progress and handle duration functions that will be passed to the onProps callback. Where we are rendering the YouTube player, let's go ahead and pass the props to the YouTube player. Then above we will return in a paragraph tag the seconds elapsed and also the duration. If we head on back to our project and we switch between the videos, we can see here when we play a video that the seconds elapsed is updated and also the duration as we navigate throughout the videos that we have in our CMS. Now let's go ahead and add a form tag. We'll need to import form from Remix, and this is a special component. You can learn more about this on the Remix docs, but inside of here we'll need to pass some fields. Inside of the form we'll pass some hidden input types. These inputs will be for the timestamp and the duration of the current video that we are viewing. We'll pass the values from the state that we previously set, and also we need to provide some buttons for the different type of reactions we want to react to the video. One of the lesser known features of the HTML button is we can pass different values. We'll pass all of the different values that we specified inside of the enumeration for our different emoji types. Next, we'll need to specify the method post on the form, and we'll give this a class name of reaction bar, and we'll add those styles at the end. Now let's go ahead and export the special function named action. This will be async, and from here we can destructure the params and the request. And then we need to assign form data, so we'll need to await request.form data. This captures the form data we submitted on that form we created previously. Then from that object we can get all of the entries, and we'll destructure the values that were inside of that form. Then using those values we can convert them to number and string and pass those along to GraphCMS. And then we'll go ahead and redirect to the page. This is for those without JavaScript enabled. This will redirect to the page that we're viewing to give a greater experience. Now let's go ahead and define that create reaction mutation. If we head on over to GraphCMS, we can see the available mutation and the arguments that are required. And we'll go ahead and create a new mutation, and we'll pass the GraphQL variables with all of the different types that match what we have for our different fields in the CMS. We can call the create reaction mutation and pass along the data. These variables must match up to what we give in the mutation name. And for video, inside of here we can connect to an existing video. Since we'll be reacting to a video on a page, that video already exists. So we just need to provide the ID to the video. And GraphCMS makes this really easy. We have a video create inline input, and we can pass to the connect object the ID for the video. And we'll return the ID for that reaction that was created. Next, let's take that mutation and paste it inside of our project. And if we now head to a page with a video, we can click these different reaction types, and you'll notice in the bottom left that the page is doing something. If we head to our CMS and go to the view for viewing all of the different reactions, we can see we now have a few added that we've just clicked previously. We have the duration, the timestamp, emoji, and the video it's connected to. Now the video value was 0, and that was because we weren't playing. If we now play the video and scrub to a point further on in the video and click a reaction, the CMS will be updated with entries that have that new timestamp. Now let's update the query for our video page. We'll need to also fetch the reactions, ID, timestamp, duration, and the emoji for the video page that we are currently viewing. Next, let's go ahead and create the component file, reactions, inside of a new folder called components. Then let's go ahead and export a default function reactions with the props reactions, which is an empty array. Then for the purposes of this part, let's go ahead and just render to this component the JSON stringified output for our reactions. Then inside of our video page, let's go ahead and import that new component. And down where we are rendering the video, let's invoke that component and pass along the reactions prop. Now back on our video page, we can see that we have this stringified output of our different reaction entries. This is fantastic. We can use this to render all of the different reactions on our page, and we'll do that now. Let's remove the output JSON from our reactions component, and then we'll go ahead and return a new component reaction for all of the reactions that we passed in through the props. Inside of this new function reaction, we'll destructure the timestamp, duration, and emoji. And for now, we'll return a span with that icon. Let's create a quick dictionary for all of the different emoji types. The key will match the enumeration that is provided to the reaction component, and the value will be the emoji. And then inside of the component reaction, we'll go ahead and assign icon, and this will be the value where the key matches the emoji passed into that component. Then we are going to be defining an inline style for our span tag. We'll provide the CSS value left, and we'll need to do a calculation on the percentage of where this is between the video width player. We'll then pass in the percentage for that left value, which is the timestamp divided by duration. Then let's update the outputted span to be enclosed within a div. Then inside of the global.css file inside of our styles folder, let's paste in some styles. This will style the reaction bar, the buttons inside of those, and the video reactions which will be overlaid on top of the video. And if we scrub to a point in time on the video and click on one of the reactions, this will then be placed on that timeline so we can see at what point during the video someone reacted and what that reaction type was as an emoji. If we switch to another video, you'll see this doesn't have any reactions just yet. But again, if we scrub to a point in time and we click an emoji, this will be stored inside of the CMS. If we head back to the CMS and open a video, we can see that we have all of the different references, and these are the reactions that were created when we clicked on those buttons within the application.